Fisherman's Post. More fish, more often.
Hello and welcome to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series. This episode titled First Flight Lures Winter Rigs. We're going to be talking to Gene Holland of First Flight Lures. We're going to be talking to Zane Long, pro staff of First Flight Lures, also captain, Falling Tide Fishing Adventures. And we're going to be talking about the swing jig line. We're going to be talking about the ledge tender line. And we're going to be talking about design, differences in lineup. We're going to talk about target species. And then we're also going to be talking, of course, about fishability of these rigs, about application of these rigs. I'm Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post. Fisherman's Post has been serving the saltwater fishing community of North Carolina since 2003, bringing you fishing reports, fishing information, fishing tournaments, fishing schools, and now, in this latest chapter, a saltwater podcast series. It is in this saltwater podcast series that we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina coast and ask them to share with us, their insights and knowledge on how to catch more fish more often. And then we also just like to put in there that the true goal might not be just more fish more often, but also just giving you confidence for you to grab, family and friends and spend more time on the water more often. I'm joined this week, just as I am every week, with my podcast partner, Billy Thorpe of Thorpe Creative. Welcome to another episode, Billy.
What's going on, Gary? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, man. Good to see you.
From a distance. Good to see you.
Yeah, not my top choice. We'll get back to being together again soon enough, but today for remote, I think we can make it work.
Yeah, man. Looks good. Sounds good. We'll make it happen. So, Gary, hope you've been doing well, man. Hope you've been catching lots of fish, because I haven't, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe after today's episode, I'll be like confident again. So, anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, man, I want to, first of all, just give a shout out real quick to Marine Warehouse Center for being sponsors of the show. Really appreciate those guys coming on board and sponsoring the Fisherman's Post podcast. Got a quick video from those guys. We'll be right back.
As you know, it's been a great year for boat sales. However, it's been really tough for customers to find boats in stock. We're the headquarters in Wilmington, North Carolina for Para Customs, Sailfish, Sea Chaser, and Carolina Skiff. Our manufacturers are telling us the high demand for boats is going to affect 2021 inventory as well. So if you're looking to get a boat in the spring, you need to come sign up with us now.
All right. Go get a boat. Better hurry.
I love those guys.
Yeah, man, they're awesome. Always doing good work over there.
And I bet you think I'm getting ready to tell you a bad joke that Terrell told me this past week.
I got my sound effects ready, Gary.
Well, I'm not going to tell you a bad joke that Terrell told me this past week, and it is because Emmett, I think, is a little jealous from all the attention that Terrell's gotten. The other owner, Emmett, is a little jealous. So he's been blowing up my phone, lots of text messages. And he said he had a joke he would rather share with us and for me to back off at Terrell a little bit.
All right. I'm in.
So I want you to tell me who you think is a better joke teller. Here's what Emmett came up with. A boat carrying blue paint collided with another boat carrying red paint. Both crews are missing and believed to be marooned.
All right.
Is that a dog barking in the background? No, a bird. All right. Yeah. I told Emmett you should leave it to Terrell to tell the jokes, but
yeah,
Emmett, I think Emmett's ego got in the way. I think his ego got in the way.
You sell boats, Terrell tells the jokes. All right. Keep them happy. Terrell, keep them happy. Emmett closes the deals. That's how it works. Good part.
And this is the part where we say, Billy, please show our audience a fishing photo.
Here we are. We got Valerie Souch with a 22-inch black drum caught on the bottom rig with fresh shrimp while fishing inshore in the topsail area. Good-looking black drum. Really good-looking black drum.
Yeah, man, good for Valerie. Good to get out there catching some fish, man, and, timely. As we're going to talk about, black drum are going to come up tonight when we're talking to First Flight Lures, Gene and Zane. And so, yeah, man, I thought that was a good photo selection for the podcast series.
Absolutely.
Give me some how to watch, how to listen, and then I'm going to introduce our guest.
All right. So if you're watching, you know how to watch. If you're listening, you know how to listen. But if not, here's some other ways you can interact with us. We're on Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, rather, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Gary, we hit 1,000 subscribers a couple weeks ago on our YouTube channel. So we are super excited about that and appreciate everybody joining us for not only being a subscriber, but joining us on our live show. It was super fun. So, yeah, man, it was a good time for sure.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. I'm excited about a whole new year. 2020 I thought was accomplished what we wanted to accomplish, and number one up there, having a good time, still doing that. And now I hope these guys, Gene and Zane, continue that good time. I have a feeling they are. I have a feeling having two of them talking there is going to be a good show. And so before I go to Gene and Zane, Billy, even though it's a new year, I still have you set up for Billy's best takeaways. So when I'm finished talking with Gene and Zane,
ready,
coming
man.
back to you for Billy's best takeaway.
I'm glad
Got
we
it?
kept that segment. I was nervous you're going to pitch it this year. Who knows?
Well, I appreciate the Christmas gift you got me, so I wanted to keep that segment.
Hey, no big deal, man. No big deal.
Oh, it wasn't a big deal. It was actually almost too modest of a gift, but whatever. We'll talk about that later. Gene Holland and Zane Long, welcome to the show. Let's bring you up. Let's bring you on screen. All right, so Zane, give us a wave so we know who's who. And Gene, give us a wave so we know who's who. And again, that's Gene Long of First Flight Lures. Gene Holland of First Flight Lures, Zane Long, Pro Staff, and also Falling Tide Fishing Adventures. I need to get tight here at the beginning of the year. Hey, welcome to the show. Looking forward to talking about the swing jig line, the ledge tenderline. This is like a Dr. Swords. But as is tradition on the podcast series, we ask you to qualify yourself first. I'm going to go to both of you for qualification. Gene Long, Gene Holland, why should we listen? Gene Holland, why should we listen to what you have to say about making fishing lures, the manufacturer of First Flight Lures?
Really and truly, man, there's not much I can say. We try to build a great product for anglers, something that's going to catch fish. Zane is a testament to that, as well as some of our other pro staff that unfortunately can't be here with us due to distance, although we are distanced apart with our podcast tonight. But really and truly, we try to develop our lures. We try to work with our pro staff. We listen very well to our pro staff, and we try to build a quality lure for the customer.
Zane Long, as is the case, Gene got in the fishing business and it reduced his fishing time. So we got you on camera here, Zane. Why should we listen to what you have to say about using these First Flight lures?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. I've been doing this type of fishing for a long time, man. It's I feel like every captain has its thing that kind of gets him going, gets his creek flowing, if you will. And this is what does it for me. And I look forward every year when I can spend some time targeting, the fish that you would target with these jigs, black drum, sheep's head, tog, redfish. And I think I do it well, and I definitely do it often. And I feel like I'm here to offer any knowledge I can, just to help you guys out and share the wealth.
All right. So, hey, it is tradition on the Fish Post podcast series that we give you a second question, a non-fishing related question. And I will be disappointed if neither of you knows the answer to this. And so I'm playing off of First Flight Lures, the two of you. What year did the Wright brothers make their first flight?
Ooh.
Come on, Gene, you got it. Hold on.
First Flight Lures.
Man,
that's a good one. I was not prepared for that question. I will openly admit it.
Let's go back to talking about
fish. I run into buildings for a living and fish and build fishing lures. I am definitely not a history buff.
Man, I'm stumped. You tell me.
I will tell you that the first flight happened in 1903 First Flight Lures. But now let's go right to fishing. All right. So my understanding is we're going to talk about a couple of jig lines, a couple of lines of lures. We're going to talk to Gene about the design, the concept, the plan for them, and then we're going to move into Zane with more of the application and the fishability of it. And as we talked about, we're calling this First Flight Lures Winter Edition. However, certainly these lures can be used year round, but since it is winter right now and winter is what Zane is putting them in the application, we're going to focus the fishability part on the wintertime application. So Gene, I'm coming to you. Let's talk about the swing jig line first, please. Tell us what it is. Give us a demo.
I got you
Give us
good
an
tongue
example.
tied, don't I?
Yeah, man.
We brought this concept in. It's nothing new. It's something that's been used in bass fishing for years, but it's never really been big in this area as far as saltwater fishing. So we wanted to bring it and put our unique twist on it. We partnered with Owner Hooks to start this, to try to give a good quality jig that was going to hold up really well to basically the rigors of what we're going to put it through. The original line started from half to 1 1/4 with a 2-aught Gorilla Light Owner hook. It is a free swinging hook. We have one tied up here so we can show you kind of how we tie it up as well.
Well, yeah, let's see one, because what I need you to do, because we have watchers and we have listeners. So if you would hold one up for the camera, just so we have a point of reference.
He's going to be a Vanna White for me.
Yeah.
I like it. Hold it up there. And then get in a little bit close on that, Billy. Yeah, perfect. All right.
So it's a little interesting to actually see. So when it's actually rigged, and I'll grab the rigged one here. When it's actually rigged,
give a description of it. I'm sorry, man. Remember, we have listeners as well as viewers. So first describe that first rig to me, and then we'll talk about rigging it.
Right. Basically what you have, and that's what I was going to show you with the tied one here. You have a free swinging hook that's on a wire form that runs throughout the lead. It is a football shaped head. It allows it to hold really well in current. And where we're getting at with the free swinging hook, and you can see it with the one I have rigged. I'm not really showing you how to rig it, but you can actually see that the hook, if I can get it over here, the hook actually free swings below the weight. So you can see the line comes off the top. What that does for us, it does a couple of things. It allows us, one, to be able to throw this pretty much wherever we want. Fishing in rocks with a fixed hook or a Carolina rig, you have a lot of problems with snagging. With the treat jigs, with the free swinging hook, most of the time, if you do snag, it's pretty easy to just kind of pop it and it comes right out. I actually met Zane through the company. I didn't know him prior. And his ability to move from traditional Carolina rigs, like everybody pretty much uses for these species, to a fixed hook design, and then moving over to our design with the swing hooks, the ability to, the hookup ratio and the ability to snag less lures and fish longer is huge. The other thing too is, and we're all familiar with it, I grew up fishing Carolina rigs as well. From a captain's standpoint, if you have a rig on the boat and your customer throws it in, they snag it and they break it off, we got to put an egg sinker on. We got to put a bead on. We got to, hopefully we've pre-tied some rigs, but we're going to, have to tie it to the swivel. To where with these, they're a single tie point and a free swinging hook. So basically you pull it out and you just essentially would be tying to a swivel. There's just no swivel. It's a direct line. It's a straight in line hook. It just works so much better and it's so much quicker. So when you break off, you're right back in the ability to fish pretty quick.
I follow. So you said up front a 1/2 ounce to 1 1/4 ounce. Is that where you started, or that's where you are now?
That's where we started. So we originally started, we were doing 1/2 to 1 1/4. That quickly, when we got up around the Noose River bait and tackle, we moved it down to 1/4. So now we do 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1, and 1 1/4. 1 1/4 is currently as large as we can go with the with the molds that we have. But we haven't let that hold us back when it comes to our swing jig line.
And then you mentioned that the shape of the sinker helps hold in the current better. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
It's a football shaped head. It's got one flat area, so when it actually sits, and it's kind of hard to sit it. Zane's going to try to use his cell phone here. So you can see that the flat spot of the jig will actually allow it to sit on the bottom, leaving the hook point up. And then when you actually lift it into the current, that hook will swing free underneath. So it works good both on the bottom and holding. And the football shaped head, it's going to turn in the current and it's going to hold in the current. It's not going to spin or anything like that. It holds real well in the current.
And then when you were designing this, because I think I liked on our sort of pre-show talk, or at least a couple days ago, where you said, man, I had this design in mind of how this hook would be, how this rig would be used. And then there's, people get more creative with the application of it. So your design was you can fish it anywhere. You can cast it more accurately than a Carolina rig. You can put it right in the rocks. Did I hear all that correctly?
That's pretty much the concept. Now, with it being said, this is a design and fishability. I guess design is a loose term when it comes to this. The actual jig mold itself is not First Flight Lures design. It's the more the application that we decided to use it for is where we got into our design phase of it. Most everybody can kind of see, and everybody has their twist on different lures as they go. And that's one of the biggest things. Again, the swing jig forms has been something that's been around for years. It's just been something that's mainly been freshwater and bass based. Smallmouth based, right.
Yeah.
So let me go to you, Zane. So how are you using this rig? Again, as we mentioned, I'll let you say again that you use this rig year round, but we're here sort of focus on winter fishing and the winter application. So give us a little bit about how this thing plays out. How would you use it?
Absolutely. So fishing this thing in the winter, I'm using mostly crustaceans as for bait. I'm targeting fish species that are eating crustaceans, redfish, tog, sheep's head, black drum primarily, and there's always a few bonus species in there. The grunts eat the crabs and everything as well. I'm most of the time, this time of year, 60-degree water temps and dropping. I'm fishing near shore, in the 1 to 5 mile range, using anything from live fiddler crabs, mud crabs, to chunk blue crab, as well as fresh shrimp, and different spots, different bait. Most of the time, I'm trying to fish these vertical, and that's when I feel like you're getting you're fishing these most effectively when you're fishing them straight up and down. And what that allows you to do over, say, a Carolina rig, or anything that's going to have a moving weight away from the hook is you're going to be able to stay in contact with this, 100% of the time. I feel like it's the most effective way to do this type of fishing. Speaking on to what Gene was saying earlier, what, I guess made me fall in love with these is being able to not fish them vertical and not risk losing the hook or rig every time. If you take the rock jetties in Riceville, for an example, if you take a Carolina rig rigged with a fiddler crab and chunk that in, towards those rocks, I would say like you're doing good if you get that rig back, maybe 20% of the time, 30% of the time. It's just really hard to do, and you lose contact with the bait in a hole. You have so much scope in your line, and with these you're able to chunk them up in there, and you're only, the weight and the bait is one thing, and you're able to feel where you're at, and you can almost bump it like you're trout. Like if I'm tossing these in there, I'm almost like trout fishing with it. I know that sounds weird, but you're able to feel it drop off of the ledge, and now you let a little more line out. You're able to be in contact with your bait, much more.
Well, man, I'm going to follow up with a couple of questions. So first, I'm going to keep you right on the jetties. So here we are, in January, February. So what exactly are you targeting on the Masonboro rocks in January, February, or even March? Maybe a little bit more specific about target species, what kind of bait you're using. I know you mentioned 3 different crustaceans, but how about if I zero into like my best chance of using that rig successfully on the Masonboro jetties in January, February?
Right on. Yeah. So January, February, I'm gonna be fishing with probably chunk blue crab. The fiddlers or mud crabs can be a bit more scarce this time of year, and you're targeting the bigger sheep's head, tall tog, blackfish is what some folks call them. It's primarily, we're on the southernmost range of where those fish are coming from. So you're catching, definitely a migratory fish species at that point. This time of year, they're coming from, Jersey, Maryland, up, Chesapeake Bay area. We're catching those fish. The black drum, you'll catch the big ones, and you'll catch some decent sized ones. I feel like the numbers at this point, this time of the year, have going to be moved into that near shore 1 to 5 mile range. You're definitely still, can always run into a redfish at the jetty any time of year, but in the wintertime, you can run into some good numbers of them. And you'll catch grunts and ringtails along with it, but mostly we're going to be targeting the tog and the black drum, sheep's head.
Follow up. You like moving tide? You like an incoming and outgoing, anything like that?
Book a trip. No. Right. Yeah. So different scenarios, for any, if we're talking about an inlet, you're probably going to have some sort of moving tide most of the time. Slack tide can be good for, getting to the spots that are a bit harder to fish when the tide's ripping, for sure. I mean, you can definitely still catch them at a slack tide. I like to, any type of, when I'm fishing with crustacean, I try to have some current, whether it be near shore or in an inlet, just so I can, you're fishing with your chum, essentially. You're fishing and it's called building a bite. It's, very common to the near shore, offshore people. You're fishing with bait and you're missing fish, and that smell of the bait that you're fishing is hopefully getting carried down to another part of structure, or be it a ledge, near shore bottom, anything like that. You want that scent traveling down the current. So you want to have some current for sure.
And so how about a little bit more on the nearshore action? Are you fishing wrecks? Are you fishing hard bottom, ledges? Like, what's the ideal January and February 1 to 5 mile range, bottom
Sure.
to target?
So I would say a good place to start is going to be your, your ARs. If you're looking to do this type of fishing, big structure, bring plenty of bait. You're going to lose a lot of bait. I absolutely target the tog on ledges more so than I would the larger structures. But the larger structure, you're going to hold the sheep's head and the black drum and even the redfish throughout the winter. So I would say that's always a good place to start if you have some live bottom that is dense, limestone live bottom, into rock ledges. Those are always good spots to hold these wintering fish, because a lot of times, of course, they're going to be out there feeding. They're going to be somewhere where, holds of, crabs or shrimp throughout the winter. But more so than not, these fish, especially the sheep's head and black drum and redfish, are going to just be wintering over, sort of like a trout in a yacht basin more so.
Man, thank you, Zane. I like the application part of this show. So now, Gene, I'm coming back to you because I think we had 2 lines. You're more than 2 lines, but we're going to focus on 2 lines this podcast. Now I have in my notes the ledge tender line.
Well,
and let's do the same thing.
We actually haven't even brushed the surface, honestly, of our swing jigs.
Okay, go on, man.
Crazy as that seems. Our swing jig lines, our swing jig line, not lines, when our line first run out, we started getting phone calls of anglers. Man, we love your jig, but we really would like to see it this way, or how can we do it this way, or can you do this, or I like it for drum, but I'd rather have something over here, or our fishery doesn't allow for this type of hook. One of the areas we're in, their fishery is real big on circle hooks. So what we've actually done, and I can show you here, is our swing jig line is actually morphed into different setups. So now we offer this line. The original one you saw was a 2-aught Gorilla Light. We actually offer it, and I apologize for my ability to get the camera there. We have what we call our tog jig, still in the same swing jig lineup, same swing jig head, but we're offering it with a 4-aught hook. We offer it 1 1/4 is for the guys like Zane that are going off to fish the wreck that want something heavy. They're not really wanting to light tackle what they're doing. They're wanting it to get down, and they're wanting to look for tog. Again, it's just a bigger hook, same hook series. It's still a live bait hook, but it's a 4-aught hook. The infamous flounder, a party in itself. We only get it a little bit of time now, but some of the guys were saying they wanted something for flounder. So we actually released it with a kill jig. We call it our kill jig, comes with a 2-aught Mustang Gorilla hook. We offer it from 1/4 to 1 ounce. 1 1/4 has really not been popular for that, so we don't really pour it that big anymore, however we can. The guys doing drum and people looking for circle hooks, we released it with a drum hook. So it's a 4-aught owner SSW circle hook. Same head concept, 1 1/4 with a drum hook. For the guys up around Carolina Beach, does it a little bit. Atlantic Beach does it a lot, but the guys that are fishing for urchins, Chasing Tails requested it, so we actually did it with a 5-aught hook. That's a Gamakatsu hook for guys fishing with urchins. Unpainted is by far the popular. Some of the pictures you see us post that Zane sends us or other anglers send us, they've gotten colors. Currently, it's 9 colors. All of our jigs are available in these 9 colors. And there's 4 more colors to come, which is blue, Carolina blue, sand, and pumpkin brown.
You only need the pink. Colors. You only need the pink one, though.
Only need the pink one.
You only need the pink one.
Maybe we're killing them on the orange last year. What in the world?
So does color make a difference? Or is that just for my taste? I just like the idea of dropping down a color weight.
I don't know. It looks good to me anyway.
It honestly, it catches the angler's eye. Some people, orange and pink are big for us, as well as watermelon, I think, and new penny. I think people are looking at the fact of trying to match the lead to the bait, because the bait and lead are so close together. So if you're fishing a fresh crab, like Zane was saying, an orange, when you bust that crab open, he's going to be really orange inside. So putting that orange piece of lead basically makes that lead in your head disappear to the fish.
Hey, I had another thought while you were sort of going through this too, since the different lines sort of involve different hooks. I mean, I'm not a tackle guy. I certainly recognize the name Owner. Maybe you tell us what makes Owner a superior hook. Why go with them? I know you said Gamakatsu too, but it seemed like most of your rigs were Owner hooked.
We use Owner. We use pretty much all manufacturers. We use Owner for a lot of our live bait stuff. We use Mustad for our jig hooks. Mustad makes a great 2X strong jig hook. VMC makes great treble hooks, and we match those when we do our teasers for mirror lures. We match those because that's the actual hook that mirror lure uses, and we want our teasers to be as close as we can to what mirror lure is using. But Owner's got that name. They've got that. They've done a lot of research. They've got a lot of extremely nice equipment. Their hooks stay strong, but as far as the hook that we put on our jig, I've always fished an owner live bait hook. I think they make a great live bait hook. They're strong. They're a little bit smaller wire in the Gorilla Light series, which for me is big when it comes to being able to get into some of the, especially some of the smaller fiddler crabs that we get. Is able to get it in there when it comes down to it. With the kill jig, we went back with mustad. We went with mustad because mustad's kill hook is a little bit thicker wire. We wanted something with a little bit thicker wire. When I look at hooks, I'm going to pour it. Let's say we decide to do another jig and another swing jig, and we're going to do it with a, I don't know. We'll just go back and touch on the drum jig since that was one of the last ones we did. When we did that, we didn't look at just owner. We looked at owner. We looked at mustad. We looked at VMC. The new hook or the new jig that's coming out, hopefully in 2021, our circle hook jig. It will be tested with all manufacturers of hooks, and whatever hook matches up the best for the fishability of it, as well as the long lasting, and people like Zane that are literally putting the ringer to it, is the hook that'll go into jig. It's not, First Flight Lures is not signed to one hook company. I've never been a single hook. I use gammies for flies. I've always tied my hooks on my flies on gammy hooks, and that's what we use. I know it's a quality hook. I know it lasts, and I know how well it works for the application, and that's what's big for us.
Zane, I'm listening to him talk, and you're on the pro staff. Give me an example of some feedback you gave Gene that he actually incorporated into a design. Give me one example.
Right. Let's see. I think the tog jig.
Yep, that was
you. The tall tog have a, they have, sheepshead have teeth as well and have a bony mouth, but the tog have a pretty hard. Most of the time when you're hooking them, it's because you're missing them. You're missing them, and they have that big rubber lip. But if you actually eat the jig, you have to be able to bust through that layer of teeth and get into that jaw. Like, you have to hook them pretty much in the bone. And these jigs right out the pack, the smaller treat jigs right out the pack will absolutely do that. But like we said before, if you're banging these things against rock and structure, you're going to want something that you can that's going to hold that point on that bigger wire a bit more. And I think that's what you get out of that tog jig. To speak kind of towards what he was saying with the owner hooks and the quality of these jigs. I thought when I first met Gene, I came out to check out the shop and was looking over a couple things, and he was talking hooks and rigs. And I will say, nothing's held back when he's making these things. I don't believe he's looking at price as much. He's looking at what is the best product he can make. And, at first I was a little, thrown back, because it's like, okay, man, well, it's just a lead and a hook. And it truly is, but it's the best combination that you can possibly have. And he does that throughout his whole line. And there's nothing, this isn't going to fail. He's got the quality hook, the quality wire. You're not going to, today on this rig, a buddy of mine, my buddy Kevin, he caught it, I would say, a 60-pound black drum on this small little hook right here. And that just is a testament right there to the quality of this product. You're able to crank down that drag and lean into that heavy fish, and you're gonna catch it because you have on the terminal tackle you need to put that fish in the boat. And I think that's what kind of separates this company, away from others, the mainstream larger production companies versus a smaller scale custom tackle company, is you're going to have the quality that you need to land those quality fish.
Well, one thing real quick, while right after Zane there, if I could, Gary, one of the biggest things too for us is when you start looking at lead and companies that deal in lead, a lot of lead is, you got two options to pour it. You can either hand pour it or you can bottom pour it. One of the biggest things for us, and I've had some people kind of look at me like I'm crazy, we literally hand pour all these jigs. My fiance does some pouring for me. She's probably home by now. I think I heard her pull up a minute ago. But she goes out back and hand pours these jigs, same as I do. These jigs are, if there's a wrinkle in the leather, or in the leather, if there's a wrinkle in the lead, such as it poured too slow or something like that, that's not something that's going to go past here. There's a whole tray of jigs over here on the wall that are going to go back for remelt. And what I mean by that is we're going to remelt the lid. The wire form goes into trash. And if we can manage to salvage the hook, we salvage the hook. If not, we just mainly save the lid. But we're not going to pass out a product that I wouldn't buy in the store for any reason. And if you ever have a problem with one of our jigs, please call us and let us know. It's not like something gets by. That's just the way it is. But you figure these jigs are hand poured out back right here behind our house. 100% hand poured. They're brought inside. They're snipped. They're checked. If they go out for paint, they're checked again before they go out for paint. They're painted. They're checked again, and then they're packaged. If they're just unpainted, they're checked before they're packaged. So, I mean, some of these jigs are checked 5, 6, 7 times before they ever go out to the customer.
Hey, man, I don't know much about tackle manufacturing at all. So you said you hand pour as opposed to what? Bottom pour? Is that the phrase you used? And
so you have two options. They make bottom pour pot.
And what is
and basically what a bottom pour pot is you're cooking your lead in a regular pot. Once it reaches appropriate temperature, you're moving it over to your bottom pour pot, and essentially you're putting the mold under it and lifting a handle. When you lift a handle, the lead falls out the bottom of the pot. It works great. We have a bottom pour pot here that we do for some of our stuff as far as sinkers, mainly for our Lupton rigs and stuff like that. We pour all our own sinkers in house for our Lupton rigs. But even with that, I don't think you could talk my fiance into even using the bottom pour pot for that. The traditional way, and what we're meaning by hand pouring, is we're actually cooking the lead in a pot, getting it up to the appropriate temperature, and we're skimming all this. Skim it, all the slag goes off into the side, and then we're hand dipping the lead and pouring it one at a time into these molds. These jigs are made, when we do a line of jigs, we do them one at a time. We don't even have production molds. So if you call and want quarter through one, we're going to pour 1/4 at a time, 1/2 at a time, 1/3 at a time until these jigs are done.
So, hey, man, I'm going to give you a version. Give you, Gene, a version of the question I gave Zane about sort of like feedback and tweak and design. Can you come up with anything that someone has requested or suggested where you thought to yourself, "Nah, I'm not going to do that"?
The urchin jig. I love Matt up at Chasing Tails a lot. When he first posed the idea to me, I'll be honest, I really did not think it would work. That's an extremely it's hard to really see, but see if I can get it over. That's an extremely long hook shank. I wasn't 100% sure as to how it was going to work. But we poured it, we tested it, we tried it, we looked at it, we talked to them to give you an idea how that worked. When that jig actually, we did the urchin jig for Chasing Tails, it was poured with a gammy hook, which is what's on it. It was poured with an owner hook, and it was poured with a mustad hook, and it was sent to Chasing Tails for them to verify which hook they felt would be the best in that jig. based on their knowledge of urchin fishing, because I honestly have no knowledge of it. So I wanted to get as much knowledge as I could before we made an attempt at trying to do something that a customer wanted. There's little things like it's little things a lot of times. The cobia jig line, I've had some people come and ask me some really off the wall colors. I've got one behind me that they said they wanted it to look like a Tootsie Roll wrapper. I don't know why in the world they wanted. I'll get it. I don't know why in the world they wanted a cobia jig to look like a Tootsie Roll wrapper. It took a couple tries, but we actually tied 2 of them, sent one to the customer, and kept one for ourselves, so we could have I guess a conversation piece for later.
Well, Gene and Zane, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news for you. So the good news is, man, this has been a very enlightening conversation about the swing jig line. So that's the good news. The bad news is we're out of time, man. We're not even, I know you do way more than that. We had mentioned the ledge tender line. We're going to just make a promise to do that on another episode. And so that's the bad news. We're not even going to get to talk to about tonight. But again, I love going into detail on a smaller topic. I'm glad that this episode worked out that way.
Well,
Before
I
I
really
say,
appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
yeah, man. And I tell you what, like, usually at the end of the episode, I ask the captain tell me sort of what they're up to. So why don't you? And I don't want you to run through the whole gamut. We don't want to hear the whole catalog line. But Gene, why don't you give me a couple of lures that we would want to look at for the upcoming spring? And then Zane, I'm going to go to you after Gene, and you tell me about some of your winter fishing and then what you're excited about in the spring. All right, Gene, you first.
All right. Well, I'll lead it off. We're rolling into the first of the year here. And the biggest thing is cobia jigs. We offer our cobia jig line of natural bucktails to cast and catch some cobia. We offer them in 2 different sizes and 3 different lines. But that's our biggest thing right now is cobia, because it takes so long to get them tied. They are hand tied here in the shop. Outside of that, pompano jigs, they're going to be, as we get into early spring, that's going to be huge. Our pompano jig line, our bonita jig line, bonita's going to come around again. We have a bonita jig as well. And then we have our Spanish line, our mylar jigs that we throw for Spanish or troll for Spanish. Most of our stuff is casting. We don't do a lot of trolling, but most of our stuff is casting. But bonita jig line and Spanish jig line can kind of coincide. And we're just ending up our fall fishing, our early winter fishing with the drum rigs and stuff. We hand tie all our own drum rigs here. So,
How about it, Zane, man? What are you fishing for through the winter? And then what has you most excited about the spring?
All right. So I guess, wintertime, I'm spending most of my time targeting the tall tog and the sheep's head and the black drum near shore. I'm doing most of that fishing with the swing jigs. Occasionally I'll use the ledge tender jigs as well. Do a little striper fishing if you'd be interested in, and the wintertime drum and sheep's head fishing is just starting to kick off. January is when it starts getting good. So if you'd like to, join in on that, you can go to fallingtidefishingadventures.com and look into booking a trip. For the spring, I'm also really looking forward to the Atlantic Bonito. Hopefully we have them as thick this year as we did last year, as well as your nearshore flounder fishing, which I think we hit on a little bit. These Kale swing jigs caught all of the nearshore flounder that we caught on my char boat this year, and it's something that I think if you enjoy targeting flounder near shore, it's really something you should look into if you're not bumping artificials. If you're doing the live bait deal, that's what you need to have on the boat. With the bonita and as well as the Spanish, I'm using these small mylar Spanish jigs. I'll jig some metal as well, but there was definitely days at the areas that those fish show up in. If those areas, those areas. If not, maybe you can find them out. But This one right here without the Mylar on it, 100%. I was out there with 30, 40 boats that stack out there on the weekends, and me and the other guy that were fishing those were the ones catching the bonito. Sometimes they don't want the shiny metal. Sometimes they need something a little more subtle. But that's, we're targeting sheep's head as well as in the spring. But, that's pretty much what we got.
Man, thank you guys both. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I wanted to learn more about First Flight Lures. Gene, we've met before, done a product review, but just wanted to have a more in-depth conversation. And Zane, it's been a long time, but certainly remember hanging out with you in the past too. Man, Thank you guys. Thank you guys. We're going to have you back on again, and appreciate your time tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us, Gary.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So Billy,
What's
that brings
up,
me to
Gary?
you.
All right, man. I'm in it. I had a lot of takeaways because I didn't know anything about those jigs they were talking about, so I took away an education. However, what piqued my curiosity the most was somebody out there has potentially caught a cobia on a Tootsie Roll, and I'm curious. Like, they got me curious with that color of lure. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, that's not a good takeaway, but that's piqued my curiosity of the whole conversation. I'm like, I learned a lot about these jigs, but that Tootsie Roll has got me curious.
I have it here if you want to see it. You can come back to us.
You had something. Here we go. There it is. So, did they catch anything on it? I guess that's my follow-up question.
I don't know. I've never heard anything back, but it definitely definitely is interesting.
That's funny, man.
Well, Billy, I'll tell you. This isn't my segment, but I'm going to tell you my best takeaway. I mean, somehow Gene has his fiance pouring lead. Like, I'm thinking, man, is that going to change when he gets married? Is that just as good fortune on his part? Like, I'm trying to think of the comparison to me and my marriage, and I'm not quite sure I see it. So good for Gene, good for the fiance. That's my takeaway.
Yeah. Where's my wife? My wife isn't here. She ain't working for me.
Won't even watch a podcast. I can't even get my wife to watch my own podcast, and his fiance's out there pouring lead.
Oh, yeah, that's true love, man. True love. Well, Gary, it's been a great episode. Marine Warehouse, thank you guys so much once again for sponsoring the podcast. And, yeah, man, we'll see you next week.
All right, Billy. Next week.
All right, man. See ya.
Fisherman's